Hey everybody, Nerd in Texoma here. Recently found a very interesting reality TV show that is actually from 2005. I'm surprised I didn't know anything of this earlier. Then again, I'm not a big reality TV junkie. I when all the Survivor hype, first started and all that, and Big Brother, and I was like, okay, I'll tune in, check this out, and see what it's about. Then it quickly became apparent that it was staged, it was trash, in my opinion. If you like it, hey, that's great, go for it, watch what you like, support the shows that you do like. Just saying, in my opinion, it just wasn't worth it. I mean, shows like Survivor, in my mind, and from how I remember it being hyped when it first came out, was that, basically, okay, we're going to drop these people off on this island, and yes, there's going to be cameras hidden in the trees and stuff like that, and camera crews watching them, but, they have to survive in this inhospitable atmosphere. We're going to give them some select tools, like a screwdriver and stuff like that, but they have to figure out how to find shelter and this and that and the other. What really threw me off of Survivor is, I can't remember what season it was, but they had a challenge that if they completed this certain task, and it was an obstacle course, it wasn't anything remotely related to, finding shelter or finding food on this deserted island. It was just some obstacle course type stuff, and they would get a candy bar. Oh my gosh. And then again, forgive me on this, but it was either later that season or another season that, again, if they complete this obstacle course, it has nothing to do with actual survival on a deserted island, that they would win this brand new, whatever, 2002 Ford Escape, and they could spend the night in there in air-conditioned comfort. And if you're really surviving on a desolate island, I'm sorry, there's not going to be a Ford Escape sitting there with a full tank of gas for you to sleep in it that night with the AC running. I'm sorry, that just shot completely my interest in watching a reality show like that. That being said, there are some that I do enjoy when I get the chance. I've enjoyed America's Got Talent because it's not just all singing like The Voice or American Idol or stuff like that. It shows different talents that different people have: magic and illusion skills, musical skills beyond singing, like playing the piano or making a coherent musical piece out of, old computer parts. I don't think that's been on America's Got Talent, but, look up Flopatron on YouTube if you're interested in that. The dude repurposes old computer parts, CD drives, disc drives, all that kind of stuff, and actually makes music out of it. I mean, it's a wild idea. Reality shows like that I like. In limited quantities, I can take stuff like Hell's Kitchen and Kitchen Nightmares and MasterChef. Again, because it's been revealed that there's the element of fakeness to it. That sometimes they get a redo on their time challenges, but it's edited in such a way that it looks like, they've actually completed it within the 45 minutes and stuff, when they've actually been given an hour to finish it, or an hour and a half, or to me, that's not reality. So, generally speaking, I don't watch reality shows. However, there is one, like I say, that I had recently found out about that captured my interest. It was a British show on their network called Channel 4. Came out, from what I can see, about 2005. And it was a very, very top secret show when it first, when they were trying to recruit contestants for it. There's very little information given out, basically just an ad run in the paper that says, hey, we've got this concept for this reality show. If you're interested, contact us here. Call this number, email. I don't think there was a website on the ad, but there may have been. And from what I read, they had hundreds of respondents to that ad in the paper, newspaper, magazines. And at the time, all these people were told to come down to this one location. They'd be interviewed, questioned, see if they'd be a good fit for what the producers actually had in mind for the show. That number got whittled down to 50, and then it got whittled down to like 12. And those 12, when it actually got to them, they were finally told what the show is about. And it's definitely a first of its kind show. I have never heard of a reality show so sworn to secrecy as this was, and I doubt I ever will again. What the reality show was there was this top secret contest, basically, to be among the first space tourists through a Russian agency known as STAR, the Space Tourist Administration of Russia. And these 12 people were finally told that they were contestants, and that 4 of them would actually get a spot on a very top secret Russian shuttle to orbit the Earth for 5 days. And that they would be among the first space tourists in existence. Now, this was a time of, of course, Elon Musk, oh gosh, I forget, Richard Branson, all these billionaires were trying to drum up this space tourism. There was an American billionaire who got a spot on one of the Russian rockets and actually spent some time on the International Space Station. So for them to be able to keep this show as top secret as they did for as long as they did, it's amazing. For this show to have fallen into obscurity, I'm totally shocked. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't understand how almost nobody has heard of the show called Space Cadets. That's the name of the show, documenting these folks' trip through training, both mental and physical training, for a 3-week period to make a 5-day trip to space. It's just flabbergasting. Each day, the contestants went through different lectures, learning stuff, learning the terminology of, what to say while they're in orbit, communicating with the capsule control, Capcom, and all that down on Earth, down in Russia. It was a quite intense training, where they learned about the history of the cosmonauts. I mean, of course, they had some American scientists and rocket engineers and stuff like that came over, but most of their training came from Russian military sources, the cosmonauts, because that's the technology that they were using. That's where they were getting trained. It was in Russia, and that's where they would be taking off from. And I mean, this show, man, to be one of those contestants, to get a spot, I believe the ship was called Earth Orbiter 1. To get a seat on that ship, I mean, that had to be a very amazing feeling. Now, they ultimately selected 4 of the contestants that actually got a seat on that shuttle. It was based on, their test scores, their physical endurance, and stuff like that. But they kept the other contestants around as reserve. If something were to go wrong, like one, excuse me, if one of the 4 were to get sick or to get injured or something, they had the other folks in reserve to take their place, just in case. Thankfully, the 4 that were selected made it. Everybody was fine. Everything was working great. There's a little power glitch when they were actually rolling the shuttle out of the hangar bay, because this shuttle actually took off like a plane and then circled around into higher and higher in the atmosphere. It would never get to the altitude of the space station, but it would kind of skim the Earth, skim the atmosphere, to where there's actually gravity on the shuttle, to where they could just walk around like normal and there wasn't that weightlessness. And I mean, that by itself is an unbelievable feat. I mean, wow. Well, once the shuttle was actually in orbit, the producers of this show gathered up the backup contestants, the ones that didn't get a seat on the shuttle, and they told them something that was pretty shocking. the shuttle didn't really exist. Their companions, those 4 that were selected, never made it to space. The reason for that is because it was all a hoax. They got the best sci-fi behind-the-scenes creators together to make a mock-up of a theoretical space tourist shuttle on an old American military base in England that they rented out this base, rented out all this equipment, buses, tanks. They got some equipment from movie studios that they rented, like jets and rocket launchers and stuff like that, that were all Russian. They replaced every sign on this base from English into Russian. They went so far as to change the electrical plugs from UK to Russian plugs. So that meant they had to get, all the appliances. They went from England to Russia and bought up everything you could think of at Russian grocery stores. So all the food that these cadets were eating while they were in training, all the shampoo that they used to wash their hair, all the soap, was all authentic Russian products to make them believe that they had left the TV studio where they were interviewing for this show, left that in England, gotten on a plane, and flown to Russia. When in reality, all they did is, yes, they did actually leave the station. They actually did get on a plane, but that plane flew around the coast of England, or the coast of the UK, for like 4.5 hours to simulate that they were going to Russia. This was, and probably is, the biggest reality TV deception to date. We're talking, this is, 17 years later, and nothing has come close to this. They had everybody fooled into thinking that they were actually at a Russian military base, being trained, intensive training, for 3 weeks to be among the first space tourists, and definitely the first British space tourists. They had the simulator set up so perfectly that it looked just like a space shuttle. They actually came up with technobabble to explain why the people on the shuttle would not have the weightless feelings of being in space by just barely skimming the atmosphere. And that there were 3 artificial gravity generators on board the shuttle that didn't really produce a gravity field of their own, but what they did was they enhanced the natural gravity, so it was more like Earth standard. They had everything just perfect. And they convinced these people for 5 days that they were actually in space. Now, yeah, there were some people, as the story progresses, they're just like, man, I can't believe this. This was so smooth. This was so amazing. It doesn't even feel like we've left Earth. And there were some times that the illusion was almost broken. But the producers, the actors who were there to create the illusion and to carry it along were skilled enough that they could continue that. And they're like, oh yeah, this, I've been flying this shuttle, on test flights for 6 or 7 times, and I still can't believe it myself that it's so smooth, that it gets up there so easily, and this and that. It's hard to keep this a secret from the rest of the world. That's why we went to this small, tiny military base in Russia. This disused location. They had explanations for everything. And it was amazing. Now, yeah, near the end of the show, they started introducing some more ridiculous challenges and experiments that they wanted the space tourists, that they were actually calling cosmonauts at that point, to do on the ship. And some of these things were just completely stupid. But they managed to capture that illusion for that long, for a month, to convince these folks that they were actually going to space. That's amazing. The good news is that even the ones that were not selected to go on the shuttle, since they still had them around and they still kept them around, at the end of the series, it was revealed that each of those people that were not originally selected would get 5,000 pounds, which I'm not sure of the exact translation, to dollars back in 2005, what that would have been. But, I think pounds and euros are fairly close to the American dollar, so it's safe to say that they got anywhere between $4,500 to $5,500 for their participation in this. And they actually did get to travel to Russia and take a flight on the Vomit Comet, which is basically, I think it was a 747 or 737 that had been modified by NASA and different space agencies and stuff. Every country that had a space program, I believe, had their own version of it. That is a plane that does fly high enough into the atmosphere, and through a series of maneuvers simulates the weightlessness, the real weightlessness of space, since there is no such thing as an artificial gravity generator yet. The 4 that were selected to be on the shuttle also got to travel to Russia and take flight on the Vomit Comet. The difference is they were paid 5,000 pounds per day that they were on the shuttle. So that means they all got 25,000 pounds cash, those 4 people, and the flight on the Vomit Comet at the conclusion of the reality show. So, yes, while it was a big deception of the 5-day mission, it actually did end up with each of the 11 or 12 finalists technically making it to space, which I think is pretty damn cool. This type of reality show, where yes, it's ultimately revealed that it's fake, you know, the pulling the wool over somebody's eyes, that part, it's kind of questionable. You know, technically they did do as promised. They did get to ride the Vomit Comet to get to the edge of space. You know, I think the was it Blue Origin or Blue Dragon or whichever one that William Shatner was on actually made it to the outer edge of the atmosphere in space. Whereas, you know, the Vomit Comet makes it to the inner edge of the atmosphere. Not quite space, but close to space. So, I mean, technically they didn't lie on that part, but there was a lot of deception going on there. There was a lot of times that the whole illusion could have just been blown at any time. And the fact that they were able to pull it off for a month, I think is amazing. Hi, Balana. Balana's over there wiggling around and making noise. Still too shy to actually pop up and be on screen, really, so. Hey, some cats are like that. Anyhow, this show is not available on DVD that I can see anywhere. But it is available in its entirety, all 10 episodes, on YouTube on a channel called Cadets 2012. And they have a playlist of this series in order. You know, each episode is broken up into like 3 to 5 parts, depending on how long it ran. But it's easily bingeable over a weekend. I believe each episode is between 45 and 50 minutes. So, like I say, it's give or take about a 8 to 9 hour, investment of your time, but I think it's worth it. I think it is amazing for what it is, for the skill of everybody who is involved to be able to pull off such a deception for so long, such a quality deception. Like I said, that's where I watched it, is on the channel. It's called Cadets 2012 here on YouTube. Look it up if it sounds interesting to you. They're all there. I personally would love if this series were available on DVD, because I would buy it. In my opinion, it's that damn cool. But hey, like I say, check it out. if it sparks your interest, you know. If it doesn't, hey, you learn something new about how people can be deceived to actually think that they're actually in space. But y'all be cool to each other. If you have any ideas for a show, you know, just drop them down in the comments. I'll read through them. I'll see if I can accomplish that, if I can do that. Got a few irons in the fire at the moment, so there may be a big announcement, hopefully, coming soon. I don't foresee it impacting the channel that much, if at all, but if it does, I will let you know. And of course, if it pans out, I will let you know. It would be a great opportunity if it does pan out for me, and getting things in order. But y'all be good. I'll see y'all next time. And till then, be good to each other. Enjoy your pets and the time that you get to spend with them, like Spot, who has been sitting here on my lap purring while I'm recording this and getting his foot claw stuck in my shirt there. Say hi to the camera, Spot. Hello. How's it going, everybody? Alright, I know he's annoyed, like, human, you messing with me again on the camera. But alright, y'all. Be good. Nerd and Texoma. Talk to you later. Bye.